Our topic this week is maintaining progress. And when I asked Evelyn to talk about this earlier, she said, well, which kind of maintaining progress are you talking about? An already mastered skill or keeping the trajectory going in a smooth upward? And I said, well, my goodness, let's talk about both of those. So let's talk a little bit about how we keep progress happening and that trajectory going in a smooth upward. Because I know as a parent, sometimes it feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't want to get, I hear all the time, you don't want to get into a place where you're not seeing progress over a period of time.
Yes. So, I mean, first of all, you need to be taking your data on what you're doing and graphing it preferably so that you can actually see when you need to do something different.
Yeah.
So you need to, so if you're doing that, then you're going to know right away if your kid's progress, you know, because you're going to see this learning curve, and then if it starts to taper off, you're going to know that you need to do something different. Or if it starts to go down or doesn't move at all. So I think that's the first thing, is to keep an eye on it and don't kind of rely on your hunches as to whether your kid's learning or not, because we're not very reliable sources in terms of
we aren't.
Of, you know, what we imagine is going on.
And I have to say, I have to be completely honest, that the taking the data is the thing that I am the least good at, and the thing that I am the least willing and the least interested in doing. You guys talk to me all the time about how important it is, and I will take data when it's not happening the way I want to. But I just want to be honest that if you are somebody who's resistant to taking data, I understand and get it. But if you really truly want to see progress, and when I'm working on something with Jem and I'm not seeing the progress, that's when I go, okay, I gotta take the data. But really, we should be taking it from the beginning. Don't follow me.
And it is challenging. It's challenging for even therapists at times to take data, and you know, we can feel like it's kind of interfering with what you're doing, and it's tedious and it's difficult. But it doesn't have to be, and you can work with, you know, if you have someone helping you, that you can work with your BCBA, whoever it is, to design a data collection system that's easy for you or that works for you. You know, I've done all kinds of different systems for different families and different parents, and some parents really love taking data and they want to take really detailed data, and other parents, it needs to just literally be smiley face, sad face, check.
Right, and that's good. And that data is effective as well.
Absolutely. So,
oops,
you know, trying
Sorry.
to get a data collection system that's going to work for you, but it's so important to do it because you do need to know, not from your own sort of vague opinion or feel for how your kid's doing, but how your kid is really doing, and then you can intervene appropriately, more easily.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, is to make sure you're taking data so you can see what your kid's learning is looking like.
Take the data. As much as you don't want to, and whine about it if you have to. It's like when we get our kids to do homework, my son always says, I don't want to do it, and I go, yes, I know, I feel you, and I hear you.
You know, you don't
anyway.
have to overwhelm yourself if it's too challenging to take data on everything. Just pick your key things that you're focusing on, or you're most concerned about, and just take data on 1 or 2 things, and that's it.
I'm a disaster today. Let's not try to pretend that I'm not a disaster. I'm unplugging myself and knocking things over and tipping things over.
It's one of those mornings,
I'm a complete,
I'm telling you.
But so take the data, though.
Yes.
Take the data. That's the most important thing to do, is to take the data. Because as a parent, I'm somebody, well, if it's not working, I want to throw out the bath water, the baby, the tub, the whole thing, and we don't have to. Sometimes it's just something little we have to change, and we're not going to see that unless we take the data.
Right. And then if you are seeing a blip and you're not seeing the progress that you want to be seeing, then that's the time you start thinking about what's going on. It could be, and then it could just be a million different things. But it's going to be, child specific, and it depends on what you're working on. But some of the main things are, perhaps you need to do the step back a little bit. So perhaps you're making 2 big leaps forward. So maybe your child, you need to break the skill down a little bit more. So maybe you've skipped ahead a few steps without realizing it, and your kid's kind of just stuck. You know, you always talk about the shoe tying thing. You taught Jem to tie his shoes. You know, maybe he's got so far and he just can't, he's struggling with the step that you're on, and you need to just break it down a little bit more, and then you'll start to see progress. I think that's definitely one of the key things that I see when I'm looking at kids, is when they're not progressing. They probably are, possibly they are, or they're just stuck. So it's not like a disaster. We just need to break things down a little bit more, and then we're going to start to see the progress again, and then then you might be able to jump forward at a later date.
And the same is true for us too, no matter what it is, whether it's that you got a sink full of dirty dishes or you got a pile of papers that you have to take care of. If we break it down, sometimes it's just too overwhelming. If we break it down into some smaller chunk, I can't tell you how many times I've been with somebody who said, I just can't get my kitchen clean. But if you literally, somebody taught me this years ago, just go into the kitchen and say, I'm going to clean all the forks.
Yeah,
or I'm going to clean 5
Absolutely.
forks. I'm just going to clean the forks. I don't have to do anything else. I have no responsibility. And then suddenly you find the kitchen got cleaned and you don't know how it happened.
Getting the momentum going. And then also, you know, as well as breaking things down into manageable, you know, if you're trying to teach someone to speak Russian, I'm not going to ask you to learn 20 Russian words all at the same time. I'm going to break it down, and I'm probably going to even break it down to the sounds, because I know Russian, I don't know Russian at all, but I imagine that if somebody was to try and teach me Russian, that they would have to teach me the sounds and the alphabet and all that kind of thing first. So you're really going to break it down for your kid if you're not seeing progress. And then it's about looking at, I think, another major thing to think about is reinforcement again. So
there it is again.
Is your team using things? Are they using things that are actually reinforcing the behaviour? Yeah. Preference assessment is really important, because we know that everyone's motivation for different things changes all the time. And again, if you're faced with a really enormous, difficult task, like if you are learning something that's very hard, the same reinforcer is maybe not going to be a good payoff for you. It's got to be worth it.
Great. So I'm just going to go back over. So we're going to take data to see if we're getting progress and if we need to switch something. We're going to make sure that if we're not seeing the progress, we're going to break things down into smaller increments and take a look and see if that's a potential to help us to get unstuck. And the last one, we're going to check to make sure that reinforcement, that we're going to do a preference assessment and see if because what's reinforcing to us may not be reinforcing enough for them. So sometimes we got to power pack them. Those are all great.
And there's many other things, you know, that we don't have time to talk about. You know, maybe there's a skill missing, like a prerequisite skill, like that you maybe need to go back and teach something else in order for your kid to master the current skill. Maybe you're not providing enough opportunities for your kid to actually master something. You know, if you just play tennis once a week, you're not going to get as good at it as if you play it 4 times a week.
So our fourth thing then, giving them plenty of teaching opportunities. Those are all great suggestions.